Good morning and welcome to Free Advice Friday. My name is Keri Barnum for New Shelves Books, and we are so excited to be here to talk about the business of being an author, publishing, marketing, all the things. We cover them here, and you're welcome to join us live any Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern. You can join us by going to newshelves.com/FAF. It is completely free to join us. Or if you can't join us live at 10 a.m. Eastern, you are also welcome to email in a question to info, at newshelves.com. I save those questions up and then I answer them on Fridays. And if you can't join us live, you can catch the replays over on YouTube. And our YouTube is simply New Shelves Books. So you can find us over there, you can subscribe, and then you can catch the replays if you can't join us live and still get your questions answered. So thank you for being here. We are excited. We have a couple of questions we're going to jump right into. First, we have Marsha on the call today who is asking about confirming the estimated number of books published a day in the United States or worldwide. So I don't have the United States, but approximately in 2023, so last year, approximately 4 million books were published last year. Now, that does include things like publishing direct to Kindle. They're not all traditionally published, but those are books going out into the world, approximately 4 million per year. And yes, I did some math. And if we pull the math out of that, that's approximately 11,000 books are being published each day and over 450 books per hour, 8 titles per minute. So that is kind of crazy that is how many books are just being published. And so part of that, is the accessibility, is that because of the accessibility of self-publishing, of even the publishers who are like ebook publishing, because there are traditional publishers and even some of the big five have digital imprints that only do ebooks and they pretty rapidly produce. This typically is going to be in like mysteries or romance, but they rapidly produce books. And so between that and then the availability of self-publishing where people are not having to wait for a publisher to publish a book, that's an incredible amount of books being published. And I think it's both wonderful and amazing, but also kind of intimidating for a new author coming on the scene to feel like, wow, I'm literally 1 in 4 million this year when my book comes out. But keep in mind, I will say that while 4 million books are published approximately per year, not every book is marketed. Not every book has been well done. So I always tell authors that, of course, you have the opportunity to stand out, and the difference is going to be your marketing. Do you market your book? A lot of people put up a book, they throw it up there, and they just expect, if you build it, they will come. Doesn't quite work like that with the book. So you really do have to market your book. You have to share it. You have to make sure that you are doing your research and meeting reader expectations. So they want to go click on your book. So they want to find it. So they want to read it and review it and share it with friends. And so it's intimidating sometimes to hear that's how many books are being published. But I think not every book, we've also probably all heard the statistics that the average self-published book will sell 250 copies in its lifetime, keeping in mind that a lifetime is considered about 10 years. So 250 copies in a lifetime for self-published books. And for traditionally published books, you're looking at around 2,000 copies per lifetime if we look at an average. But if we really dissect the numbers, it's not every book selling 250 copies or 2,000 copies. We have some books that are selling thousands, maybe even millions. And then we have some books that have only sold 2 copies. And I'm not talking about just self-published books. This is not Bob just went on Kindle and put up a book and he sold 2 copies. Some of these that are only selling 2 copies are from big houses. They're from university presses. They're from traditional publishers. And again, it all comes down to, not all, but a big part of it is whether you are traditionally published, you partner with a true hybrid, and you're working that way, or you're self-publishing. It comes down to finding your readership, meeting their expectations, and marketing to get that book out there. Because, and I've said it a lot, I'll say it again, a book that is not seen is a book that cannot be bought. And if you're not marketing your book, it's not seen. No one knows it's out there because there are 4 million books. So you do have to market your book. But there is such opportunity as well, because that means, hey, there it's possible to publish. If you haven't published yet, you've got a wide range of opportunity. Um, and so we obviously know that the Bob who's only sold 2 copies is not our own Bob Eckstein. Um, we know that. We know that your museum book is doing great, as it should. Just happen to have the right name there, Bob. Let's see. So to answer your question, Marsha, hopefully those numbers are what you were looking for. So it's both sobering, but I think encouraging as well when we kind of look at that. When we look at book sales, I think we talked about this maybe a week ago, 2 weeks ago. We were kind of talking about book sales, about how some children and why book sales are declining a little bit in the last couple of quarters, but adult fiction is increasing. We're seeing more sales. We're seeing audiobook sales, especially for adult fiction, and adult nonfiction climbing. So there's so much opportunity, and that is why I take the time to learn the market. It's why I come here on Free Advice Friday and I share these stats and the information and what's happening in the industry with you, because I think part of, no matter how you publish, if you're with a traditional press, if you're self-publishing, I think part of what makes an author successful is being educated on the industry. And I think that there's a severe lack in many ways. There's a severe lack of sharing that traditional publisher sales information. How many books are being published? We kind of think like, oh, it's just the author. They don't need to know that. But I think you do. I think that knowledge is power, and knowing these things, knowing the trends, knowing, what genres are trending, and knowing what formats that audio is trending. I think that that is so important, because I think it's something that can help you market yourself. It gives you leverage. If you would like to ask your agent to, put your audio rights out there if they're not already sold to the publisher, and different things. I think these things are important. And the more that an author can embrace the industry as a whole and not just the writing aspect, the better off and more successful they'll be. And that's why I spend the time doing this and learning and reading, because what I do personally is I do publishing consulting and I market books. But I can't market books well if I don't know what's trending. I can't market books well and be of use and help and service to authors if I don't know the trends that are going on. Like, May was not a great month for book sales. I talked to a lot of authors off the ledge, but if I wasn't doing the research, I wouldn't know that. So I do think it's so important to research and know your market so that you can sell in your market, and so that you can take the changes as they come. Speaking of changes, it has been, I've seen it now in 3. I'm a newsletter junkie. You guys know this. So of course, I follow Jane Friedman, Dave Chesson. I get the hidden gems, the written word blog. I get all the things. And so it's come up multiple times, and I've seen it myself as well, that Amazon has very quietly changed the rules of our metadata keywords in the back end of your publishing platform. So in the back end, if you are self-publishing, or if you're working with a small press, many small presses do use KDP directly in order to get ebooks and print books up onto Amazon, because the profit margin is better and you have more access to tools. So the back end of Amazon gives you 7 metadata keywords that are a huge aspect of what drives organic traffic and algorithms to your book. So we often talk about these 7 keywords, and sometimes we say keywords, but they can be keyword phrases. So it could be wormhole alien book romance, and that could be a keyword, even though it's a phrase. We have 50 characters in these keyword boxes, and the rules of how we use these have changed over time. We used to be able to put comp titles and authors in that keyword spot. Well, now we can't. Amazon doesn't allow it. We used to be able to put things like bestseller. Now we can't. And the rules have once again slightly and quietly changed. So I wanted to just cover that, because Some of the things out there sound a little bit scary, but I will honestly say some of the new things that you're not allowed to do that have changed, you all are probably not doing anyway. So this should not be a big, in my opinion, this should not be a big concern to you. You should be aware of it, but this is not a panic moment. So I wanted to go over that a little bit. Let me pull up, this keyword section here because, and I will use the link. This is directly from the KDP site. Drop it in here. There we go. All right, let me share my screen. We're going to go over it together. It's not as scary as it sounds, but I want you guys to see it. So here, and I did drop the link, but for anyone who's watching the replay, you can find this on the KDP like help website. It's help topic G201298-500. Anyway, keywords to avoid. So this one is one of the ones that's new and has changed. Information covered elsewhere in your book's metadata, title, contributors, etc. So this means that they are now encouraging you not to use keywords. We've already known, number one, that you don't want to use keywords that are already in your title, your subtitle. I feel a sneeze coming on, so if I'm making funny faces, that's why. Excuse me. All right. So we already know information on your title, your subtitle. We don't want to do that. Your title and your subtitle are already some of your biggest keywords. So you don't need to put those in your metadata space. It's like wasted space. However, what is new is they're now also recommending that you avoid anything that's in your categories. So, and that's this one down here where it's already mentioned in your book categories. So this one here, where it's talking about if you're in 19th century history as a category, do not put 19th century in your keywords. Now, it's not necessarily going to hurt you to my understanding. It's not going to penalize you, but it is a wasted space because they are now using your categories as keywords already for your book. So if you have a fantasy romance, you no longer want to put fantasy romance series in your keywords. A couple months ago, you would have. Now you do not because fantasy romance is already part of your category. You would not do that. And if you're not sure what your categories are, you can very easily go to, you can see it in the back end, but you can also go to your Amazon sales page and it's right there with your product information. You can find that information. So we don't need to list that anymore. Subjective claims about quality. Now, these I do believe can penalize you right here. So if you say best novel ever, #1 bestseller, bestseller of 2023, these are the keywords that they are, I believe, starting to penalize you for, where it can actually hurt your searches in your algorithm. Award-winning, things like that. Now, you may actually be able to say, but I did win an award and I understand that. But they do see that as a subjective claim, bestseller, all of those things. So it's best to just avoid those things. Anything that is time sensitive, and this makes sense, like new books for 2024 on sale for 99 cents, available now. They want you to avoid all of those. And again, that's not new. This one is new, I believe. Information common to most items in the category. For example, book. So this I found very interesting because it used to be that you would do something like hardback or paperback or Kindle. They no longer want you to use those words that is just common to the category. So you're already in the books category and you're already in either print books or Kindle category. So they don't want you to use those words. So they don't want you to use any of that. So you would say something like epic fantasy adventure with romance, and that might be your keyword, but you would not say epic fantasy adventure book, and that's kind of new. The other thing is spelling errors. So this was actually something we were encouraged to do not that long ago. Common spelling errors in your keyword section. So for example, one of the most common spelling errors for suspense novels is instead of putting suspense, Suspense, people would spell it when they're typing it out. Suspence, suspense. And so people were using suspense with a C as their keyword because they were trying to capture the people who were, spelling errors and that. Well, now they are pinging you for that. They don't want you to do that. They want to train their algorithms essentially. And we've all done it, or we've like typed something into Google or an Amazon search, and we've typed things incorrectly, and it finds the right word or it guesses the right word. And I believe this is part of why they want to keep people from intentionally using misspelled keywords, is because they are training their algorithms and their AI and all the things back there to recognize spelling errors and show the right thing. Yes, and Cheryl's asking, I think Dave Chesson recently recommended adding audio if it's available for your title. That is now not recommended. That is one of those things as a common to most items and categories. So it's not recommended to add things like audio or audiobook any longer. And this just changed like very recently. Variants of spacing and punctuation. This was also one that was really popular, where again, you're going to spell it different ways, or you're going to use spacing, not spacing. Now they're saying use it one way and one way only. We don't need pluralizations, capitalizations, punctuation, does not matter. Use the keyword once only in one way. This one has been around for a long time, but it's getting a little bit more broad. So anything misrepresentative, like the name of an author not associated with your book. So remember, I talked about not too long ago about how years ago it was very common to use comp titles and authors in your metadata keywords. We know that's not allowed anymore, but even more than that, Amazon's really cracking down on you using brand information. This one, brands that you do not own or that you are unauthorized to use. So, for example, the words Kindle, Kindle Unlimited, KDP, Amazon. Amazon owns those brands, you do not. And so they are now penalizing you for having them. They won't let you use them. If you are using certain brands, for example, like maybe your book has something to do, I don't know, maybe you interview the CEO of Coca-Cola and you put Coca-Cola in there, it's not your brand to use, you'll be penalized for that. So that is, to my knowledge, this is a new one that the brands are really cracking down on, as much as they are with things for like misrepresentations for titles and authors. They are cracking down on brand usage. So you need to watch out for that one. The other one is quotation marks in search terms. This is not a new one. Really using punctuation in search terms or in metadata keywords has been something for a while. But also single words work better than phrases and specific words work better than general ones. So this is, again, not new, that when you're going to do it, be intentional. We don't want to stuff our 50 characters with like every keyword we can think of. It's not needed. And again, Amazon program names like Kindle Unlimited, KDP Select, not allowed. This one down here, HTML tags, again, is something I don't think any of you are doing, but people who are very computer savvy, we're trying to use HTML tags to hide them in the keywords. And I have to be honest and say that my brain didn't quite wrap around how that worked, but it was something that people were actually trying to use HTML tags as a search in the back. That's very intentional. I don't think that's something that like someone accidentally did or had great intentions. Like people are trying to like use the system that way, and they basically were like, nah, not gonna happen. So again, this is not crazy. This is not, it's new. Some of the things like the fact that your category information is now already one of your keywords and you don't need to use it. It's new, but it's not going to hurt you. It's wasted space, so you should update your keywords. Not going to hurt you. Things like using bestseller, using Kindle Unlimited, KDP Select, that's new and that's something you need to change. Same thing with spelling errors. So these are the things that you just need to be aware of. It's not scary. It's not like, oh my gosh, my book's going to be taken down. It will take a while for them to kind of roll out, but be aware and make your updates. It's always, if it's been a couple of months or even years since you looked at your keywords, it's good to update those anyway. Yes, should authors who have already published go back and remove any of these words if they've already used them? Yes, you should. If you have, again, not looked at your keywords for a little while, go back, check them, and correct them. Because even if your publishing information predates these rules, you're still judged by the new rules. So I do recommend that you go back and you make those changes. Can we use the name of a character in subtitle? Yes. So no, you cannot, because if a character, most of the time, a character can be not, I'm not a lawyer. I'm telling you as I understand it, but characters can be trademarked. And so a lot of that you're not allowed to do either, using other people's characters. They would see it as misrepresentation or using someone else's brand. So that's what I know of it. Dave Chesson, again, has a great video on it that he went over. And again, it's a lot of what we already knew. It's just updated. And what type of penalties are they giving out? So there are a couple penalties that I personally have seen when these things have come up. They have, in some cases, refused to publish a book until you update your keywords. So if it's a new book, they will say there's a problem with your keywords. You have to update before it can be published. In some cases, I have seen books be unpublished and the author get an email saying you need to update this. And then there is, of course, kind of the silent penalty, I'll call it, where your book essentially, because it's not meeting requirements, the algorithms just kind of react to it and they stop showing your book, or they kind of like start hiding your book. And so that's not as obvious at first, but it's definitely affecting you. So these are the things we absolutely do want to update. It's really easy to do. Yeah, and it's super easy. Shear's asking, how do you run a free promotion that Amazon allows? So if you're trying to do one of the 5 free day promotions for Amazon, your book has to be in Kindle Unlimited. We talked about this, I think maybe it was last week, maybe 2 weeks ago. So I'll send you the link to that. But essentially, if you would like to do the free days through Amazon, where you're giving your ebook away for free, your book has to be in Kindle Unlimited. Otherwise, there's a whole other process to doing a free promo. And I did cover that in that video. So you can go watch the YouTube replays from our last, I think it was last Free Advice Friday, maybe the one before. It is up on YouTube and I covered that at length. So you can grab that. So that's a good question. So Kevin's asking, what if, for example, I'm using Amazon rainforest as a keyword? It's got the word Amazon in there, which I'm not allowed to use. Supposedly, to my understanding, the computers, the system is smart enough to recognize when your word is indeed legitimate. So when you are saying Amazon books, it'll ping you. But if you're saying Amazon rainforest, it will recognize that Amazon rainforest is in fact a place, a thing. And so it will not penalize you for that. And I believe it. I mean, honestly, the computer systems, the training, the AI, the bots, whatever we want to call them, they're smart. They've been really well trained. And yes, there will always be bugs when we see this. And honestly, usually when Amazon makes some big changes, we do see some bugs typically. We sometimes see things happen as it gets worked out, but supposedly it is recognizing the difference between proper use of the word Amazon, like Amazon rainforest, and then use of the brand. So we'll see. All right. So that was, of course, big news that came up this week that's been covered a lot. And I had a couple panicked people email me. So I wanted to make sure that we gave you that information so that, again, it's not scary. I did have an emailed question from Francis that I want to cover up next. So last week, I think we had talked about how I do not recommend publishing books this fall specifically. Why? Because it's an election year in the US. And what often happens during election years, I've watched it multiple election years. what we see is that around election time, book sales tend to just fall. People are very focused on politics. They are not reading as much. They are staying offline altogether because they don't want to hear about politics, all sorts of different things. And so I've seen, I mean, multiple 4-year trends where sales go down, and it's like strong enough correlation. Other people have said it as well that I will stand on that mountaintop. Um, so I do not recommend that we publish any books later than October. November, I would not be publishing any book in November this year personally. October, early October, I think you can get away with it. But the closer we get to election, the more that social media will be drowned out with political talk. Um, Algorithms will be picking up on uh, that kind of stuff rather than books or reading and different things. We will see where people are distracted. They're not buying all sorts of things. So I personally do not recommend it. But the question from Francis was a follow-up to that. What if your book is generically patriotic? So it's got a patriotism theme. Francis specifically has a quick read mystery that's going to be set in Boston in 1733. So, a couple of thoughts here is that, again, one of the reasons why I would not do a book then is that for um, just reasons that I don't think you'll be seen as much. Now, that's not to say that your book can't be published or it won't be successful, but you're not going to get as many eyes and traffic on it, in my opinion, in that November time period, just because it's a couple weeks before election and a couple weeks after. It just, everything gets drowned out by politics. That's one reason. Now, when you bring up a patriotic or political themed book, we add another layer onto that. And the reason why this is super interesting to me is that while I did say that the algorithms do pick up on politics and they start showing people more political posts and different things, at the same time, many of the major social media channels will start doing kind of like a silent ban on certain keywords and posts. So as we get closer to the US election, political keywords will start to, in some cases, be suppressed. You won't be able to advertise for certain political keywords. You can get in a lot of trouble with different stuff. I had a book come out that was set before the Civil War, but it was part of, Civil War is part of the series. And the author actually, for no reason that we could see based on what was posted, um, got kicked off of Facebook, was not allowed to run ads from this account. Like it was a big thing. And because some of the keywords he was using were politically based keywords. Now, I want to say very clearly, this was not hate. It wasn't even like current politics, but just some of the words that were used, like election or different things, got him banned from Facebook. So that's another layer to consider, that the closer we get to the election, the more that some social media channels will, and this is not a person in a booth deciding whether or not you should stay or go. They program their bots and their AI to be vigilant. I can't even say my words today. You know what I mean. Just trust me on this one. Um, they program their bots to look for certain words and things so that they are just kind of kicking people off or suppressing people based on that. So that for those reasons, if you have a book to publish, even if it's patriotic, I recommend early October at the latest. That is what I would recommend. Now, there are going to be books that publish, even from traditional press, there will be books that publish in the interim. I just think it makes your job even harder, and that's why I don't recommend it. Let's see. Election year distraction issue. Should we consider reducing our Facebook or Amazon ad spend for books already on the market? I don't think so, Beth. What I typically see is that people just aren't on as much. Your Amazon ad impressions will probably go down in November. Your clicks will go down. So I'm not seeing where people are still clicking and searching and not buying. I am seeing more where like just traffic to those places is down. So I don't think it's something where you need to stop your ads because I think you'll still, you'll be serving the market that's there. I think just less people are searching for books because they're watching debates or they're having debates online. And that's been my experience. And I've been in multiple accounts there for sure. I was going to release my book October 15th. To avoid the political problems you listed, when should I change the date? I would not do a non-holiday book in December, Victoria. I think October 15th is fine. October 15th is early enough. I would not go later than that. I would not go, if we're talking about October 30th, that would not be my chosen date. I think October 15th is about as late as I would go. If you decide, hey, I don't want to do mid-October, I want to wait, I'd be waiting until mid to late January is when I would be picking that back up for a book that's not holiday themed or not the books that we see do well in December, January for launching, not necessarily initial or sales long term, but for launching, is holiday themed books or books that are very much tied into the new year, new me goals. Like people are very motivated in January usually. So those books, wow. So that's what I personally would do. I think October 15th or wait till January. You can't go wrong with either one, in my opinion. Let me see. So yes, I've got a couple people asking about the information for that ebook promo. And again, the replay for how to run an ebook promo, especially a free one when your book's not on Kindle Unlimited. I do have that up on Free Advice Friday replays on YouTube. So you can go to youtube.com/New Shelves Books. I believe it was either episode 192 or 193. I think it was 192, but I will check. I'm trying to look now. But again, me with multitasking. There we go. It was episode 193 for any of you who are wondering and asking. I will drop the link in the chat so you can find it. Some other industry news that we've seen kind of come up this week is that Romance Writers of America, or RWA, has filed for bankruptcy. They are officially closing. Anyone who's been a part of RWA or who has been a speaker for them or anything like that, this has been kind of a long time coming. I'm not surprised. There has been a lot of talk with RWA with problems with lack of inclusion or with racism that really hurt them. And even when people tried to step up and make a difference, so much damage had been done and so much innate issues were there that really it led to them folding. And so I'm not so surprised by this. I know other people in the industry are not. It's always sad to see a established organization for writers close. I'll say I think I first spoke for RWA or for, a conference associated for RWA. I think I first was a speaker for them in 2018 or 2019, and this was already brewing. And then I saw it happen, more and more and again. And so I have seen over that time, I do keep in touch with some of the authors from those groups that I had spoken to. I've spoken in Florida and Georgia and different places. And I've seen members from those groups break off and kind of just not be a part of the organization or join other organizations for romance writers. So It's sad to see a well-established writing organization go. However, I do believe that, anyone who is part of it, many of them knew that there were systemic issues there. So I'm hoping that those writers, the ones who really want to be plugged in, find other ways, or they start their own small library organizations, whatever it is. And it's not something that holds writers back. But I think it's one of those things that we do see that, whether it be businesses, people, publishing companies, writing organizations, that when we let systemic issues in and we don't deal with them, they will eventually catch up with us. So again, very sad to see, but not too much of a surprise for me personally. Drafted Digital seems to have fully taken over Smashwords. Yes, so they did. Drafted Digital bought out Smashwords over a year ago, and they've slowly just been taking over and integrating everything. As far as promo advantages, not really. I will say that Smashwords kind of has their own store, which Drafted Digital didn't have. They have like their own storefront. But most people I know do not see a lot of sales from the Smashwords storefront, and most people are not, buying books there because Smashwords is not necessarily, it's not Nook, it's not Apple, it's not one of the big ones that people recognize or have devices that specifically promote a certain platform. So they do have some sales and they give opportunities where you can do like discounts for the Smashwords um, store and you can promote it, but I'm not seeing any huge lift there. Or I think there's benefit of Drafted Digital taking over and kind of streamlining what was Smashwords, because Smashwords was one of the first ebook aggregators for distribution, and they were one of the first. They pioneered it, but their site was, in my opinion, out of date, clunky, hard to use. So Drafted Digital taking over and kind of streamline it really does help a lot, in my opinion. And then also it opened up. Drafted Digital is constantly adding new distribution opportunities. They've added Fable. They keep adding Kobo Plus markets and different things like that. So I think that's a big boon there. Any romance group that you recommend? I think that's hard. I will say the best romance groups that I have found is when you find a romance group locally. Now, some of them are tied to larger organizations and some are not. But I would say that in my experience, when you look for romance writers groups locally, usually, my experience, you find a writers group locally that just includes everyone. And then there's like a romance writers group that is just for, people writing romance. And I find that pretty easy. So I would be searching romance writers groups or organizations and then searching your city or town and starting local. And I found some really great groups. I've spoken with and for some really great groups that way. Highly recommended. Let's see. What about Book Baby for distribution? So Book Baby is kind of like a mix. It's like a self-publishing kind of thing, but they do have some assistance, so it's a bit more like a hybrid kind of assisted thing. They have different opportunities. Book Baby will give you some additional print options than other print on demand platforms like KDP might offer, and they do offer paid assistance. I mean, they take their cut, obviously, but if you need more assistance in publishing than doing things your own on KDP or through Ingram Spark and doing it yourself and owning it yourself, Book Baby does give you an option. Now, of course, they get their cut. They have in many cases, I believe that they use their own ISBNs. So you're technically published by them, and then they do own the print and distribution rights. At least that's how it's been on the books I've worked through BookBaby. So if that is what you would like, if that is the model you're looking for, I've known people that have worked with BookBaby and been very happy. And then for people who want to own everything, who are confident in just going straight to KDP, Ingram Spark, and running their own publishing, or who want to own everything and want to hire someone to project manage or make sure that's set up for them, I would not personally go through BookBaby for that. Someone's also asking about experience using Publish. So Kathy Meese of Publish has been a fantastic person in the industry. She is well known and well loved, and she does a lot of great things. I will say that Publish, again, for distribution, a lot of it is more aggregating and kind of POD in my experience of what I've done with them. I don't know, I don't believe, but I don't know if it's changed. I don't believe they do any um, like offset print distribution. I think they mainly use print on demand models. So kind of like BookBaby, where they do help you get your book up, they get it into the distribution channels, and they help um, pave the way for authors who aren't quite ready to take everything on their own. They also, Publish has kind of been working on some marketing tools and AI marketing tools that I think are very cool. And again, they have a great reputation for people who aren't quite ready to just jump into KDP and Ingram Spark on their own, or who need more assistance and help. Publish has a great reputation. And again, I've worked with Kathy and members of her team, and they are all fabulous. Actually, I think Kathy might be in October. I don't know if I've announced this yet, but in October, um, Alexa Bigwarf and Alexa does the Women in Publishing Summit, which is a big online conference for women. She also does Write, Publish, Sell, and she is a publisher herself. She and I are tag teaming on a conference in Charlotte, North Carolina that is geared specifically towards women in publishing. And so we will be doing that in Charlotte in October. So for any of you ladies who happen to be here and would like to join us, I'll drop the link. But I believe Kathy Meese from Publish will be there in October. And so that'll be a fun time. Sorry. Just talking about Kathy made me think about it and then made me think about Charlotte. So, and that's Charlotte, North Carolina, not Virginia. All right. Oops. All right. I think we've got about 10 more minutes. If you have any more questions, let me know and I will be happy to grab those. In the meantime, we are continuing to see quite a bit of information of publishers changing, publishers that are downsizing, publishers that are bringing in different high level people, CEOs, lead editors, publishers. We're just seeing a big shift. And I think we're seeing that partially as things change in the publishing industry. I think people who've been in the industry for a long time, sometimes they're retiring, sometimes, companies are bringing in people who might have more diverse experience or viewpoints. And so we are constantly seeing, I've noticed it, especially in the last 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, where a lot of companies were seeing like, okay, this person no longer works here. This person has been laid off. This new person is coming in. And so I think that we are seeing a lot of changes in the publishing landscape for traditional publishing and presses. And I'm very interested to see where that goes. I think that in some cases, I get questions about this because it's like, wow, they're laying off. Does this mean that publishing is going under? No, publishing's not going under. I think what we're seeing though is that publishing is starting to, it used to be that there was traditional press up here and then there was self-publishing, but as more people are self-publishing and earning, we're starting to see that even out a little bit. And so in some cases, some of the money in publishing and the staff needed for publishing is evening out as well, that maybe not as many books are going through traditional publishers. And so they don't need as much staff. But at the same time, we have self-publishers or indie publishers who are they're running things or they're hiring staff and they're earning more. And so I think we're just seeing progress in the works. And I think we're seeing things shift and change constantly and adjust from there. So I don't see that as a foreboding for, the end of publishing. I think it's just a shift and we're continually seeing these. And I think that it's I don't think it's bad. I don't know if it's good yet, but I don't think it's bad. I think it's very interesting to watch, though. Let me see. A question here from a children's book author. How popular are ebooks for kids? Should children's book authors publish in the ebook sector to get more sales, or should they just stick to print books? That is a really good question, Whitney. So, as far as children's books, if we actually look at the sales of children's books, the majority of sales for children's books are coming from print because children are tactile. They're reading, they're learning to read. They don't all have devices. So most of your sales of a children's book will come from print. Now, next up after print, we're actually seeing audio becoming more popular for children's books. Now, we've always had it, but more and more we're seeing audio books becoming popular for children as they're listening, or if there is some type of um, ability difference where they cannot see or different things. So print books by far, audiobooks. Now, I will say for ebooks, not many of your sales for a children's book author will come from ebooks. However, if you already have your print book and it's really easy to turn your print book into an ebook format and put it up and put it at a low price, you can use it for marketing or promotion or different things. I say, why not? I don't think it's going to hurt you to put the opportunity out there, and you could, leverage that for marketing purposes, or you can, earn a little bit more money for those people who do want ebooks. So if you're a children's book author, I don't think it's top priority to have an ebook. But if it's easy to do and you can, make your money back quickly on that because it's not much more expense to do an ebook if you've already got a print book, I say why not? But that's kind of how I look at it. And we see children's book all the way through YA. YA books are still bought mostly in print as well. So that whole sector, I think we start seeing more ebooks kind of in middle grade and up into the YA sector. We'll see more ebooks selling and audiobooks as well. Again, children all the way up, we're seeing more of those. But print books are a must. I had someone ask me if they could only do an ebook for a children's book, and that is not recommended at all, in my opinion. If I want to self-publish my book, everything is ready, such as book cover, formatting. Should I upload my manuscript onto the platforms myself or find a company like BookBaby or Publish or someone else to do it? Any value to have them do it? In fact, the most important, powerful I'm looking for is a powerful marketing and distribution. Here's the thing. If these platforms, BookBaby, whoever it is, if they are using the same print on demand platforms that you would be using, like Ingram Spark or KDP, if it were me personally, if you're comfortable setting up your own accounts and uploading, I've got how-to videos that literally take you step by step on YouTube. You can go to the New Shelves Books YouTube and find them. I personally would not want to pay a middleman for the same distribution that I could get going direct. Now, for some people, it's too much for them to have to deal with KDP and Ingram Spark and to upload and keep track of royalties. It's just too much. So the convenience factor of a aggregator to upload to publish under, they love that. So I think it goes down to more your personal things. Now, anytime you're working with any partner, whether it be a publisher, a hybrid, or you're working with a company like BookBaby, things like that, you really need to be clear on what marketing they offer and is it included or is it an add-on service. Most of those places, it is an add-on service. So you need to know that because that's additional budget. So does that fit best with your needs, or are you going to and are you willing and able and excited to upload to your own accounts on KDP, Draft to Digital, whatever it may be, and then to do marketing separately with a marketing company? And I really can't answer that for you because I think the answer is different for different people based on convenience factors, control factors, and a lot of different things. So I can't answer that for you, but I do think that it's one of those things that's what I would be considering. Yes, and there's a question if there will be a virtual conference component to the conference in Charlotte. At the moment, no, we're doing it in person only. So it is one of those things that you actually have to be there to experience at the moment. This interesting article in last Sunday's New York Times, a TikTok publishing story. It seems to me that given the amount of work expected by traditional publishers, a 50 split may become a new model. We are seeing some, we are seeing some publishers who are bringing up their royalties and they're paying out less upfront, or who are expecting authors to do more marketing. That tends to be more of a hybrid, though. Traditional presses take a lot of the risk. Remember the numbers we talked about at the beginning, where some books are selling 2 copies, they're not making any money on it. So I think we are seeing the publishing industry and even contracts and percentages change, because a lot of the marketing is expected for the author to be a part of it or to spearhead it, even if there are PR teams involved. The author really being involved is making the difference of book sales. And whether that be TikTok or interviews or libraries or book clubs, authors really are expected to be a huge part of their marketing and to do a lot of things for themselves. Some of them hire out PAs, some of them will, have additional marketing companies. I work with a couple of traditionally published authors, and I work with their PR teams on their marketing so they have more marketing, because the author can't take that on themselves, or they'd like additional things that maybe the publisher doesn't offer. So we're seeing some shifts, but the traditional publisher, they take on all the cost of editing, of creation, of distribution, of print runs. And so I don't see them being willing to take on the risk of 50-50 splits unless the initial payout goes down. And then we might see that a little bit more. But who knows what'll come in the publishing industry? As I said, it's changing constantly. And so we're just watching it happen. And I'm always interested to see. With that, it's right at 11 o'clock. So we're going to hop off. You guys, next week, Jessica Berg will be back with me. She's a developmental editor. She will be answering all of our questions about when to work with a developmental editor and questions about editing in general. And we'll still be answering your questions about publishing and marketing and all the good stuff. So send in your questions early if you have them for Jessica, info@newshelves.com. Or you can, of course, join us live. But early questions give us the time to make sure we set aside time to answer those. So great to see all of you. As always, have a great weekend. I will see you next Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern. Bye, guys.